This week, the first pro athletes in Kansas City stepped back on a playing field since the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Sporting Kansas City players took it slowly, as you'll hear from veteran defender Matt Besler on today's SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Thursday, May 7th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Also, you'll hear from Sporting KC President and CEO Jake Reid, who speaks to the financial impact of losing months of a season and how the game might look upon its return. But we'll start with Shaun Goodwin, who covers Sporting Kansas City for the Star. We'll get his ideas about the resumption of soccer not only in the United States, but internationally. After a break, you'll hear from Matt Besler and Jake Reid, but here we go with Shaun Goodwin. Shaun, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Blair. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, so yesterday we heard from Matt Besler and then Sporting Kansas City CEO Jake Reid on a Zoom conference call, because that's how we're communicating these days, on conference calls, mostly on Zoom. Anyway, I thought they were both really interesting, and I think the situation is also pretty pertinent in the sporting world, just because. As far as I know, the MLS is the first American professional sports league to resume practice. I know on a very limited basis. I don't know of any place besides Kansas City, and I think I heard Orlando started practicing yesterday in a very limited way. But am I right about that? Are MLS teams the first of the American pro sports to get back on a field?
Yeah, at least of the American pro sports. To go quickly off your question about the teams who are back, you've got Sporting, obviously, Orlando, Inter Miami, Atlanta, and the Houston Dynamo starting today as well. But as far as I'm aware, those are the only 5 teams. But yeah, I mean, at least of the major American sports, they're the first back, at least on the field. You talk to, Peter Vermees or Matt Besler, and they'll say it's not practice, it's individual workouts, and we call it workouts for a reason, because they're still working in their own space by themselves, so to speak. But yes, they are at least back in the facilities.
Right, and we're going to hear from Matt Besler. You asked him the question yesterday about that. I thought it was really interesting what he said about how they're aligning themselves on the practice field, basically turn the field into quadrants and working on individual skills. What else is unique and different about going to for these players going to practice? Of course, one thing that's different is they don't know when they're going to play again, but at least the facility is open and they're going back. And what do you recall what Matt said about the uniqueness of the practice situation?
Yeah, so to kind of condense it, I suppose, the general, I guess, steps that players have to take is once they arrive, they have very designated parking spots. They have free spaces in between each spot. So when they pull in, they're not by any other cars, any other players. And with Pinnacle, it's a pretty big facility. They have 2 north fields, which is the 2 they're practicing on. So there's a trainer next to the table by the entrance to those fields. So once a player pulls in, they have to sit there and wait. And the trainer has to, wait for everyone else to clear out, and he can call over the player. He pulls on some latex gloves, a mask, of course, and then he can head over to the table. He'll get a temperature check, which, of course, something else we're not usually used to. So he'll get the temperature check. If he passes and it's all fine, then he can take off the mask, take off the gloves, sanitize his hands, and head to the field. Once we go up on that field, the dimensions, we've basically got a 37.5 by 60 box to work in. So Pinnacle actually accommodates 3 soccer fields, but they're just using 2 because they have the one at the back, which is a bit further away. So yeah, as they walk in, you go to the furthest away box and then slowly filter closer to the entrance as more players come. And from there, it's just a lot of the first half is individual work with the soccer ball. Matt says doing keepy ups, and I'm sure you do all their close footwork stuff. And then the second half is more the fitness, so quick sprints and other running exercises they can do within that box.
Yeah, one thing I recall Matt saying, and again we'll hear from him in a little while, is if a ball leaves his quadrant, he goes and get it. A teammate can't kick it back to him.
Yeah, it's one of the MLS guideline stipulations, I guess, when they came out last week with all of these rules and protocols that teams have to go by, and one of those is no sharing of equipment, and that even includes soccer balls, just players using their feet. If these are professional players, so hopefully the ball shouldn't be going that far away from them too often, but if the ball does go out of their quadrant for whatever reason, they do have to wait for any other players to leave that 6 foot area, and they can go over, get the ball, and bring it back to their quadrant.
So, like the other sports that are in season or didn't complete their season, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, of course, with having starting spring training but not being able to complete it, and the MLS did start its season. Everybody had played 2 games. There was some discussion, and Jake Reid will speak to this about how the MLS might look upon the return of competition. And one of the suggestions. And he emphasized it was only an idea, a notion, and nothing, nothing concrete. Is the idea of a hub city for games, and we've heard that in other sports, right? We've heard the NBA maybe looking at Las Vegas or the Disney World complex in Orlando, and baseball we heard earlier the idea of playing all the games in Miami or in Florida or Arizona at spring training, but that seems to have there seems to be a different idea now, but. Hockey also, but also the MLS seems like it is at least considering the hub idea, and Kansas City could be a factor in that. How about explaining that?
Yeah, so just talking purely from a basis point, because I personally don't agree completely with the idea of hub cities, but if we're going to talk about if MLS does it, Kansas City is certainly an option. And that's purely because, one, obviously the Kansas-Missouri area hasn't been affected as hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you look at Kansas City, I mean, they hosted the 2013 MLS Cup and 2013 All-Star Game, so they've already worked well with the league. They can say, hey, we can host these big events and welcome all these fans and teams into Kansas City. Another big thing that teams are looking at is, obviously, you've got all these professional teams coming in. Do you have the facilities to accommodate practices and games for every single team every single day? And when you look at the soccer facilities that Kansas City has, I mean, I know when I used to even play as a youth, because we'll be using like Overland Park, Shields Complex, and Swope Soccer Village, and Wyandotte Sporting Complex, again, mostly youth fields. But when we travel to Chicago and St. Louis and Milwaukee, people would say, wow, you're from Kansas City. It's kind of like, you hear it's like the capital of soccer in the US. It kind of shows in the big, grand and well-kept soccer fields here. So Kansas City definitely has facilities to do so. Obviously, you've got the legends in downtown for hotels and accommodations. So Kansas City is definitely an option if they go forward with it. I just, me personally, I don't agree with the whole city idea. I can go into that if you want.
Okay. Hey, so I wake up every morning to Korean baseball on ESPN, and I'm enjoying it, catching the last few innings of a game from Seoul or wherever. And in another less than 2 weeks, a little over a week, that we're going to probably get the same type of broadcast from Germany with soccer. The Bundesliga is I think I saw the date. It's either May 15th or 16th for the restart of. And is that the first professional league to resume soccer?
Yeah, the first professional league will actually be the Japanese K-League, and that actually starts up tomorrow. So you'll have the Japanese K-League starts up tomorrow. Then yes, you'll have the Bundesliga starting up in a week and a half or so.
Okay, and look, good sign, and I and I think that's what a lot of us in this country and a lot of us follow soccer are going to keep a close eye on how that works, right? I mean, what what should we be looking for? And are those games in Japan and Germany going to be played in empty stadiums?
Yes, they'll still be in empty stadiums. I don't know a whole lot about the Japanese situation. I know of the Bundesliga. When they first started going back to full practices, which was a couple of weeks ago now, there were some problems with testing, and that kind of brought things back a little bit. But they sorted out that problem, so now they're making sure every player is tested before games. And now that's sorted out. Yeah, it's the empty stadiums. It's essential staff only in the stadiums. It'll be how you imagine it. Really, it's going to be the players, the coaches, and I guess just essential staff here, like security around the stadium, and that's it. So you'll be able to hear the players and coaches shouting on TV. But apart from that, it won't be too different to what we're used to.
I suspect when MLS returns, it will be similar in a similar setting. So is that the idea?
Yes, and Jake Reid said yesterday too. They'll be taking a look at how the Bundesliga does stuff, and he says either they'll look for better or worse at what they've done. We'll see how Bundesliga plays out once they get back to action. But it's certainly one of the leagues that MLS will be taking a look at, especially if they do want to be one of the first leagues back in league play in the US.
Very good. All right, Shaun Goodwin covers Sporting Kansas City and the MLS for the Kansas City Star. Shaun, good catching up with you.
You too, Blair. Thank you, sir.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
Yeah, it was different, obviously, because we're limited in what we can do. I would say that it's what I expected. I don't know if you've been able to watch the protocol video yet, but it was pretty much just like that. I mean, we sat down as a team and watched that video together on Zoom and made sure everybody understood the expectations and how things were going to run. And if anyone had questions, the questions were asked, but it pretty much went exactly, like the video was shown. And to be honest with you, it felt a lot better than I thought it was going to feel. I had questions myself going into this morning about just going out to a field as an individual, just how much I would be able to get out of that workout. But I was blown away with just how good it felt to be back out on a field. So I think it's a huge positive. And I think, I think we all understand that getting back to games is going to be a gradual process. And at first there might be some rules and guidelines that seem over the top, but if it means getting back on the field quicker, I think everyone's more than willing to follow, because I personally got to feel what it was like to step on a field again and to wear cleats and to be, outside and have a ball at my feet. And it was awesome. So I think it's a really good step that we made today.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. Our next question is going to go to Felipe Cardenas. Felipe?
So Matt, yeah, as you said, being back on the pitch, it's got to be great, but how apprehensive were you, just considering the safety measures that are in place, getting out there on the pitch? And then have you spoken with your international teammates as well, and what was their thoughts of going out today?
Yeah, so I wasn't apprehensive at all. Mostly excitement to be able to have this opportunity. you ask a good question about our foreign teammates, and that's something that we've focused on a lot during this time of just trying to communicate as much as possible, because everybody's in a different situation. And, being in a foreign country during a time like this, there's certain challenges that go along with that. I also think it's difficult because the timing of when this took place is right at the beginning of the season. So we have a lot of new players that have just got to Kansas City, and they literally just moved into their new home or their apartment. So they've only been living here for about 2 weeks, and now, they've had to stay home and practice social distancing. And so it's a tough time to try and acclimate to a new city where you're uncomfortable. But again, I think our team has done a really good job of communicating, expectations and just making sure everybody is as comfortable as possible. And if somebody isn't, then, going through the things we need to go through to help them out. But I would say for the most part, everybody on our team is in. They're excited to be able to have this opportunity. I think one thing to kind of, I guess, mention is every situation is different, so I can only really speak for what it's like here in Kansas City, and the feelings that we have as a team. Other teams might feel different. Other cities have different rules and regulations and a total different feeling. But me personally, I'm comfortable returning, and I'm comfortable returning to normal life. And I think my zip code that I live in, the last I checked, which was 2 days ago, it has 7 confirmed positive cases. So, for me, that doesn't seem like, the risk is as high as some other places.
Hey, Matt, thanks for doing this. So just, I don't want to keep on making you answer the same question about returning to training, but kind of on a different angle. And I know it's early, as you said, this is only the first day, but has kind of the plan been relayed to you as to how often you personally will be going to the facility? Is it going to be 5 times a week, 3 times a week, or no clue yet?
So it's going to be open for us. I believe it's 4 times a week. Not exactly sure what days those are, but if I had to guess, it could look something like, Monday and Tuesday, you're able to go in if you want. Wednesday's off, and then Thursday, Friday, you can go in if you want again, and then the weekend will be off. Again, I don't have confirmation of that, but I've heard that somewhere around 4 days a week. Again, I think it's the right move to open up our training facilities, because we're programmed to work out, and like as professional athletes, that's in our DNA, and it's not like you can just tell us to stop working out, and I just don't think that's going to happen. And there's only so much you can do at home, and eventually players are going to go and find another solution, because working out is how we make our living, and our careers depend on whether or not we stay fit. And so providing a safe environment for us to go and do that is to me a big step forward, and one that totally makes sense.
Thank you so much. Our next question is going to come from Simone Sandre, followed by another question from Shaun Goodwin. So we have Simone, your line is open.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. One of the conversations that's been going on in Europe, in the US, and in different sports as well, is to obviously complete the season in a bubble. And I was just wondering if you as a player do you think that's a possibility, that's a good idea? And would you be willing also to compromise your quality of life by going and living in confined spacement without your family? Would that be something that you personally would be willing to do? And do you think that's something that the soccer community and the sports community in general should be thinking about it?
So I want to make sure I understand your question. So playing in a bubble, that would mean just like playing without any fans?
Apologies. The bubble talk has been made. The idea is to bring basically all the team in a single location, which there's been talking about the NBA, the MLB, and in Europe as well. basically having all the teams in a single location, and I guess having players staying with, supposedly without their family, but in a single location and play the games without fans in a single location. Is that something that you as a player would be willing to do? Do you think that's something that the Player Association would be willing to at least start the conversation about it?
Yeah, that's a tough question because there's just so many possibilities that, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, I'll go back to what I said before about just wanting to play as many games as possible and finish the season. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I don't think we're going to be able to just snap our finger and start playing games in front of fans and have it be, exactly like it was before all this. I think it's going to be a process, but, and again, I mean, if we have to play games in front of no fans to start, I don't think that's ideal. I don't think any better play games in front of fans than not play games, with fans. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting for us because, there's other things that are happening around the world right now in other leagues, and we're certainly going to keep our eye on that. And I think, what's going on in Germany and, over in England and Spain and all the other leagues really, I think it's, going to be a collective effort just to kind of see all the different ideas that people have and what works and maybe what doesn't work. I'm confident that whatever does happen and whatever the solution is going to be, I think the players' voices will be heard in terms of being comfortable about returning to play. I don't think the league or the owners are just going to say, all right, we're going to do it this way. This is what we decided. I do think that there's going to be some conversation amongst everyone and trying to get the players' input on, how we feel about, whatever the options are.
Thank you, Matt. Our next is with Shaun Goodwin, followed by a follow-up from Jeff Carlisle. Shaun, your line is now open.
Hey, Matt, what sorts of safety protocols or health protocols did you have to go through when you first arrived at Pinnacle this morning? But I know that MLS guidelines are supposed to be kind of a health screening and temperature checks. So just what did you have to go through personally before you even got into Pinnacle?
Have you seen the video yet?
I have not, no.
So the video would basically explain everything and give everyone a visual. I believe they posted it on MLS Soccer website. So we got to our facility, and first of all, when we park our cars, we have to park. There's designated parking spots for the players, and they're like 3 or 4 parking spots away from everyone. So your car is just like sitting alone. And then you have to wait in your car until you get like the okay from one of our trainers who's kind of like standing at this table. That's basically to like make sure that, no one else is around. Once you get the okay, you can get out of your car. You're wearing a mask. You go in and they take your temperature at this like table. Then after your temperature is taken, we washed our hands, and then we were able to go back on the field.
That was Sporting Kansas City defender Matt Besler, a 12-year veteran and team captain. Now let's hear from Sporting President and CEO Jake Reid, who was asked about the financial ramifications of the lost time this season.
Significant, right? Borderline catastrophic potentially. And then not just for us. I mean, you look at any of these leagues that are, baseball is in the same boat right now, right? I think you've got a model where, particularly in MLS, we're a lot heavier reliable on the local revenues than maybe in NFL. We've got the massive TV broadcast where if you're playing closed door in the NFL, you're still going to have a significant portion of your revenues coming from the national broadcast, although we've got a great deal with ESPN and Fox, and they've been awesome partners. We're just not at the same magnitude. So it's significant for us locally as a team, and when we're looking at a very significant loss if we don't be able to play games this year, and that's not any breaking news. I mean, you cut off our revenue streams and you cut off the ability to play games where we're still having all the expenses that come with running a building and paying players and staff and everything else. It's a challenge, but I give our group credit. They've been very supportive through this process, and I think the league in general has the understanding that the sooner we can get back and start realizing some of the broadcast and sponsorship revenues, at least we can kind of check the box on some of those. But yeah, it's going to be a significant impact for as well
41. Wondering how individual workouts are going today, how they have gone, if you've got an update at all, and just the impetus behind starting those now.
Yeah, it was kind of like, kids on Christmas showing up to presents under the tree. I think getting back, everyone was super excited to just be there doing something, right? So very well received, very exciting for the guys to get back out there and start at least doing anything right outside of their home workouts that they've been confined to. So listen, we got a long road back through this thing, but I think anytime you can have some positive momentum like we did today with guys getting back to a soccer pitch and running around, it was a great start. So exciting to at least have something to grasp onto.
Can you quickly explain the logistics of it all? Are they spaced out a certain way? What are they doing? How do these things work?
Yeah, so one, I give Peter and his staff a ton of credit. They've been the league leaders on this thing, and frankly have set the protocol for the rest of the league to follow. So kudos to Peter and company for working hard to get this thing ready. Basically, think of 4 quadrants on the pitch, divided up equally. The guys then can do the individual workouts. There's a million protocol that would take the rest of this call if I walked you through everything that we have. But ultimately, safety at the forefront, from everything from them showing up to social distancing on the way in to making sure it's one at a time as they're coming on and off the pitch. Even to the extent if the ball crosses from one quadrant to the other guy can't kick it back. That guy's going to run over and get it. So really have tried to eliminate any contact, any cross contamination with any of the guys. And so we're probably way over the top on that, but clearly that's going to be the most important piece of this thing, is making sure that the players and staff are safe through this process. Because if we don't get this part right, then going into a smaller group session down the road is just going to even be more delayed. So far, so good.
Jake, you didn't mention anything about testing. Are you doing testing? Do you have tests for everybody that's involved?
We don't have tests for everyone yet. I don't. That's a great question. I don't think we've done testing yet, Robo. You may know if you want to chime in on this one as well. We're trying to secure tests. Ultimately, if we get back to the group stage, that'll be completely critical. We cannot go back to any type of group training until we have testing. But I believe right now, with the individual workout and having no interaction with anyone else and keeping everyone distance, we have not done tests.
And it sounds like you don't have like a date, or the league hasn't said, hey, we've got them, they're coming. That's still just an unknown?
Yeah, correct.
Anyone, I'm going to keep firing, so I apologize if somebody else is trying to jump in, go for it. But a lot of the leagues are talking about, kind of hub playing, the Disney and Vegas plan for NBA and everything with Pinnacle. And the incredible facility you've got there. Is there conversations about kind of a hub startup, and is Kansas City perhaps at the forefront of that?
Yeah, definitely conversations, and we've had good talks about being in the mix if that's the route they go down. I agree with you. I think facility-wise and infrastructure-wise, we're as well positioned as anyone. Clearly, Disney and Wide World of Sports has a massive complex, which is probably best suited. But listen, from a hotel standpoint, when you got the downtown hotels with the Lowe's coming on board, which is brand new and no one's been in there, we've got plenty of hotel space if we needed it. Clearly out at the Legends as well, if you want to be in proximity to the facilities. But between Swope, between Pinnacle, we've got, I think, plenty of surface to train on, and that's just counting grass, right? If you expand it out to the Wyandotte Sports Complex, to the Overland Park Shields Complex, I mean, we can definitely do it. We've had great conversations with the league. No indication of where we would be in the hierarchy there, but we're certainly in the consideration set if they decide to go to kind of a multi-city type of setup.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Savannah Smith, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. Tip of the cap to Shaun Goodwin for dropping by and talking Sporting Kansas City. Links to the stories we discussed can be found in the show notes. Hey, and earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It's still a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage. Gosh, you get all the Sporting KC, Chiefs, Royals, colleges. It's a terrific deal. Here's an even better one. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product, not just sports, but news, features, commentary, analysis, the whole shebang. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, and the details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. In either case, the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're supporting local journalism and helping us deliver products like SportsBeat KC, which will be back on Friday because this is where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.